Hey there guys, Botstowo here. Today what I got for you is a very interesting mask with a really interesting production history, and it is the Belgian ARS. So why don't we just jump right into the history? As I'm sure many of you are familiar with, Belgium during the First World War was not really having a good time. Well, nobody was, but I mean especially Belgium considering most of the country was occupied. This, of course, led to some massive issues with, well, producing, military equipment for the the remnants of the Belgian army, who did hold out until the end of the war. That was mostly remedied by, well, using French equipment or modified French equipment or, French inspired equipment, right? And gas masks were no exception. The Belgians, until 1918, did not produce any of their own masks. And instead, they just used originally the French gags, and then, the tampon masks, eventually the M2. And then in 1918, well, 1917, sorry, they would also start using the ARS, or Appareil Respiratoire Spécial. I might have butchered that because I do not speak French. But you see, at that exact same time, France was also trying to replace the M2, just as the Belgians were. And it takes a lot to replace, the masks of the entire French army, so they couldn't really spare enough ARS masks to Belgium. Because of that need for masks, Belgium decided that they would, well, improvise a little bit, do some 5 minute crafts type shit. Well, and this is what they came up with. They would take captured German GM17s and then, well, send them to the British to be outfitted with some French components, namely the valve box and these filters. And it is worth noting that in collecting spheres, they'll oftentimes refer to these as the M18. That seems to me to be entirely a collector's nickname. I don't think that was ever an official designation for this thing. Instead, it was only called the ARS. And the reason for that is, well, because the Belgians considered this to be identical to the French ARS. Like, these are, in the Belgians' eyes, the same mask. Now, these would continue to see use throughout the end of the war. I'm not sure how far into the interwar period these were used. I'm sure that they were probably discarded in favor of normal ARSs pretty quick, but I don't know that. But you see, in 1924, the Belgians did adopt the, well, M24, a really, really cool mask that is made out of leather and has a hose. It's actually pretty similar to that, but, hosed. Well, with all that history out of the way, why don't we take a look at the mask itself? If you're familiar with the German GM17, a lot of this is going to be familiar to you. So, of course, we've got this leather face piece. I believe that is sheepskin, with, this, I believe that's rubber cement as the, well, thing that holds the stitches together. Then you've got your lenses, which are these kind of flimsy plastic with a support system in there. This is, of course, a binocular design. Down here, this is where it gets fun. They replaced, well, the, I guess, filter threads and the plate that would be down here with a French valve box. So this does have an inlet and exhale valve. Also, you can kind of see here, it is supposed to have this little loop welded to it to, well, tie the support string to, which would connect up here, just like on a GM17, but mine is missing both the loop and the cord, which is a huge shame, but still very happy to have this piece in my collection. The head harness is a very bog standard GM17 harness. It is 6-point, which is very nice, and a lot of it is, well, made out of this, I believe it's 2 springs that are in here. Yeah, I feel 2. So that's how it gets its elastics. Unlike, American and British masks, they were the Germans, and later after the war, the French were quite fond of this, well, two spring or three spring, depending on the design, um, elastic strap. Now down here, you can see that you've actually got a, well, neck strap. This is just so that you can retain your mask and don't have to put it in the can. So if you know you're going to need it soon, but don't want to wear it right now, you just use that. Or, you can just carry it around like that. As you can see here, this is your threads. This is 42 millimeter, the same as a French ARS. And these are actually French ARS canisters that were issued with them, but we'll get into that later. Here is, well, your inlet valve in there. It is a free-floating clear plastic disc, which I have theories about, but I will not say them here because they are unconfirmable and I don't want them repeated at the moment. Now in here would be your exhale valve. Mine is completely crumbled. If I shake it around, you can actually... There it is! Yeah, you see that? Yeah, there's your exhale valve. That one's made out of rubber. And it's not clear plastic. Yeah, I should mention again that that valve box is exactly the same as one that you would see on a regular ARS, but now let's get onto the inside. Here you can see the back of the leather. It is just treated leather, and you can see the supports again. There's a little bit of space in between them. Now here, hey look, it's our exhale valve again, and there is our, well, inlet. The regular French ARS actually has Tissot deflectors that come off of this, but this does not. I don't really know why. Maybe it was just too expensive. The peripheral seal is just, the leather, the leather's peripherals just folded in on itself and sewn. Pretty standard for the time. And, well, that is really all there is to look at in here, too. Here is again your canister. It is a completely standard French ARS canister. I should note that this being a mouth canister, it couldn't really, well, when I say mouth canister, I mean like one that's mounted to the front of the mask. Nowadays we might call it a snout type mask. Well, that's more like World War II era, calling it that. Yeah, it goes by a lot of names, but mouth canister is what I'm going to call it. They didn't really have all that long of a lifespan. They could filter things just fine, but filtering materials like this were kind of a brand new technology, so they weren't perfected, meaning that larger, well, box canisters were a lot more effective, which is why the British and Americans went with that. The final thing that I've got to show you is this carrying can. This is, well, again, a completely standard French carrying can. You've got your shoulder strap, and, well, this is actually really neat, and I will show you how it works. This little, I guess, like retaining strap, but it's really just a little strap with a loop for a button that you can, so that you can interface it with your greatcoat, and I will be showing you how that works. On the lid here, my example has some writing. I don't know what it says. Maybe M18 25 something, I don't know. This of course opens. Can I do this with one hand? I cannot. Normally there would be a little piece of paper that is stuck to the lid, giving the name of the mask and also the instructions, but mine is sadly missing that. The inside is also just a void, except for the very bottom where you see the, well, manufacturer marks. All right, here we are at my bed. This is where I usually do your mom, but today I've got laying on it is my French World War I reenacting kit. I actually reenact France in the First World War, which is very cool, very sexy. I've been meaning to get this on the channel, so today seems like a good opportunity despite this being a Belgian mask. This is a French carrier, so I can use it with my kit. And, well, we've got Garfield here to help us out. So mainly what we want to look at is, of course, our carrier. It is slung over the shoulder with its shoulder strap, of course, like your musette bag or bags and your canteen or canteens. Oh, and ignore the presence of the M2 carrier. I just don't really feel like taking it off. Also, I know there are some, historically inaccurate bits on this coat. I'm working on it. Also, my backpack. I'm working on it. It's not done. Anyhow, getting back on topic, down here you've got essentially the tails of your coat. They fold up and then get pinned on this button here. Now, oftentimes you will see soldiers attaching your little loop here to the buttons, and this is one of the historically inaccurate things with my greatcoat. These buttons, I'm still working on getting them all replaced. I have a source, just haven't sewn them on yet. So these are actually too fat to actually fit through the holes. Like me, I am also too fat to fit in a lot of things. But anyhow, that is what keeps your carrying can stable. And honestly, it is a really neat way of doing things. They didn't need to, spend a lot more material on, a full actual, waist strap. Also, it isn't really incompatible with, any of your gear, like your backpack. It's not going to get in the way of that. Your canteen, your musette, it could get in the way of whatever you're carrying on your left side, but not too bad. Anyhow, that is all I wanted to say about the Belgian ARS. I hope you enjoyed learning about it because I really did enjoy talking about it. And I will see you in the next one, whenever that is. Now, this led to some math. Fuck.